What if I told you Freud's most controversial, most banned research actually held the key to decoding female behavior? That buried under a century of polite lies and political correctness, there's a psychological blueprint that explains everything: hypergamy, emotional manipulation, even why so many relationships crash and burn. And what if mastering this hidden map didn't just give you insight, but an almost unfair advantage in love, in power, in life itself? Strap in, because this isn't another self-help lecture. This is the darkest psychology series you'll ever watch. Most men will never truly understand women, not because they're stupid, not because they're unworthy, but because they've been lied to. Society feeds men fairy tales. Just be yourself. Treat her like a queen. Love conquers all. You've heard it 1,000 times. And yet, divorce courts are packed. Dating apps are graveyards of ghosted conversations. Loneliness has become a pandemic. Men drift through relationships like shadows, confused, frustrated, powerless. But what if the answers were never really missing? What if they were hidden in plain sight, locked away in the vaults of a man society tried to cancel? Freud's most explosive work wasn't about the Oedipus complex or the id or superego. It was something much more dangerous. A series of private lectures that were suppressed for decades focused on the psychosexual dynamics of female choice. In them, Freud dissected the female unconscious with a precision so sharp it would make even modern psychologists shudder. And one case study still echoes today: the case of the Wolf Girl of Vienna. In 1897, Freud treated a wealthy young woman. To the world, she was elegance itself, perfect posture, refined manners, adored by society. But behind closed doors, she was chaos. She lured men in with affection, then vanished for weeks without explanation. She dangled intimacy, then ripped it away, leaving her suitors in torment. Freud traced her behavior back to a childhood trauma. When she was 6 years old, she witnessed her mother systematically destroy her father's reputation, not with fists or violence, but with whispers, gossip, subtle sabotage. The lesson she absorbed at that age was simple: power isn't taken, it's given. And women learn early how to extract it. Here's where it gets chilling. Freud discovered that female desire isn't about good men versus bad boys. It's about polarity, the tension between safety and danger. Women were drawn not to morality, but to contradiction. He documented cases of women who had loyal, doting husbands, yet risked everything for affairs with criminals and outcasts. Why? Because their unconscious mind didn't crave comfort. It craved narrative conflict. It wasn't love they were chasing, it was drama. And here's the part you can't ignore. This isn't just Freud's dusty theory. Modern science has caught up. In 2012, a University of Texas study found that women were 52% more likely to engage with men who displayed something researchers called controlled unpredictability. Another study in the Journal of Social Psychology showed that women rated men as more attractive when they believed other women desired them, even if, objectively, the man wasn't particularly attractive at all. This isn't coincidence. This is evolutionary wiring.
So what does this mean for you? Most men are out here playing checkers while women are playing four-dimensional chess. But here's the good news. Once you see the board, you can't unsee it. The question is, do you want to keep playing blind, or do you want the map? Because Freud didn't stop at polarity. He uncovered something even darker, a second layer of female psychology, a force so unsettling, so primal, he hesitated to publish it at all, a force that silently guides every choice she makes, even when she doesn't realize it. Freud called it the shadow circuit. Most men never realize when they're being played. They assume love is logical. that relationships are built on fairness, that sacrifice will be rewarded. They work themselves to the bone, buy the flowers, write the poems, bend over backwards. And what happens? She loses interest. She pulls away. Why? Because women don't fall in love with providers, they fall in love with provokers. Freud's private notes revealed the mechanism behind this, the unconscious circuit that governs attraction beyond logic, beyond morality, beyond even a woman's own understanding. He discovered that what a woman says she wants and what she responds to are often polar opposites. And the men who unlock this circuit don't just win women over, they rewire them. Take the case of the Countess and the stable boy. In 1901, an aristocratic woman abandoned her titled husband to run away with a penniless stable hand. Society was shocked. Why would she throw away luxury, status, security? Freud's answer was brutal. Her husband had become predictable. He adored her. He deferred to her. He lived for her approval. The stable boy, on the other hand, didn't care. He ignored her. He vanished for days. He wasn't dazzled by her beauty, and that indifference lit her on fire.
And Freud saw this pattern again and again. Women who despised men who obeyed them, yet obsessed over men who resisted them. Because, as he put it, the female unconscious doesn't crave love, it craves conquest. A woman doesn't want attention handed to her, she wants to earn it. Modern research backs this up. A 2017 study in evolutionary psychology found that women were significantly more attracted to men who displayed selective emotional unavailability. Translation: the less you seem to care, the more she does. But Freud uncovered an even darker detail, a built-in feature of female psychology he called the testing mechanism. Women, often without even realizing it, will test a man to see if he breaks under pressure. They'll create drama, pick fights, withdraw affection, not out of cruelty, but because their unconscious is probing for weakness. The man who folds, he fails. The man who stands unshaken, he passes and triggers something primal. History is full of examples. Cleopatra didn't seduce Caesar and Antony by submitting. She tested them, manipulated them, forced them to prove their dominance, and they became obsessed. Even today, research shows women are more likely to stay in relationships with men who display what's called controlled indifference. The truth is simple. Chivalry is dead. Nice guys don't finish last. They don't even make it onto the field. The game is rigged, but the rules are clear. Her desire isn't sparked by your devotion. It's sparked by your depth. And just when you think you've mapped it out, Freud reveals there's a third layer, a psychological trigger so powerful it doesn't just attract her, it makes her addicted. That's where we're headed next. There's a moment in almost every man's life when he realizes a brutal truth. Love isn't something you're simply given, it's something you take. Not by force, not by manipulation, but by understanding the hidden levers of human psychology. Freud called this discovery the addiction protocol. And once you see it in action, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. This wasn't some abstract theory for Freud. It came from watching real people implode under the weight of their own desires. Consider the case of the opera singer and the poet. In 1905, Freud treated a woman who seemed to have it all. She was wealthy, adored by audiences, celebrated as one of the finest sopranos of her generation. But what did she do? She abandoned her career, her fortune, even her family, just to chase a penniless writer who treated her with almost casual indifference. When asked to explain why, she said something haunting. "When he's near, I feel alive. When he's gone, I feel hollow." Freud diagnosed her condition with a term that would later become infamous in psychology: intermittent reinforcement. Here's what that means in plain English. The poet didn't smother her with constant attention. He didn't make himself predictable. Instead, he gave her affection in sporadic, unpredictable bursts. And that unpredictability hooked her brain like a drug. Modern neuroscience has confirmed Freud's insight. A 2014 Harvard study showed that the brain's reward system actually fires harder when rewards are unpredictable compared to when they're consistent. That's the same principle that slot machines addictive, and it's the same principle toxic relationships exploit.
The key difference is this: when you understand it, you're not at the mercy of it. You can choose to control the rhythm. Too much attention, and she gets bored. Too little, and she checks out. But just the right dose at just the right moment, that's what makes you unforgettable. But Freud didn't stop there. He noticed something even stranger. Women weren't just craving attention, they were craving emotional contrast. One of his most controversial experiments involved showing groups of women two different men. One was consistently kind, polite, and affectionate. The other alternated between warmth and cold detachment. The result? Nearly 3 out of 4 women reported being drawn to the unpredictable man, even when they admitted his behavior was unstable. Why? Because stability feels safe, but tension feels intoxicating. And this explains why nice guys so often lose. They deliver a flat line of affection, steady, predictable, and ultimately forgettable. No highs, no lows, no risk, no fire. Meanwhile, the man who masterfully alternates between presence and mystery creates peaks and valleys that her nervous system can't let go of. It's not about playing games. It's about understanding that female desire thrives on uncertainty. Think about history's greatest seducers. Casanova didn't win women over by being consistent. He was unforgettable. He would disappear for weeks, then return with a single letter that left women breathless. Napoleon's letters to Josephine weren't simple love notes. They were carefully crafted storms of passion and withdrawal, designed to keep her spinning. Even today, studies confirm it. Women consistently report higher attraction to men who maintain a degree of controlled unavailability.
So how do you apply this in real life? First, you have to break the pattern of predictability. If you're the guy who always answers texts within 30 seconds, stop. If you're always the one to initiate plans, pull back. Give her room to wonder. Let her imagination do the heavy lifting. Second, master the art of emotional contrast. Be warm, but never needy. Be engaged, but never obvious. The goal isn't to make her doubt your interest, it's to make her crave it. But Freud's research didn't stop with contrast and timing. He uncovered something even darker. Hidden in his private asylum notes was a case so disturbing it was locked away for a century. It was the story of a woman who became physically ill when separated from a man she consciously despised. She admitted she hated him. She admitted he mistreated her. And yet, when she tried to leave, she became anxious, sick, even bedridden. Freud realized this wasn't obsession. It wasn't even love. It was something far more primal. A biological switch had been flipped. This is where Freud introduced a concept that still terrifies psychologists today: the eternal trigger. See, most men think women fall in love with who you are, your looks, your charm, your status. Freud's research suggested something far more unsettling. Women fall in love with who they become around you. Let me explain. Consider the case of the sculptor and his muse. In 1909, Freud studied a famous artist who had a string of lovers, every one of them brilliant, beautiful, and completely devoted. He never begged for their affection. He never promised forever. Instead, he did something else. He transformed them.
One woman, a shy heiress, described it this way: "With other men, I was a prize to be won. With him, I became someone I didn't even recognize, wild, fearless, alive. Freud called this process emotional alchemy. The sculptor didn't tell women who they were, he revealed who they could be. Modern psychology confirms this too. A 2018 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people are most attracted to partners who expand their self-concept, partners who make them feel like a bigger, more dynamic version of themselves. But here's the catch. This doesn't come from flattery. Empty compliments don't transform anyone. Real alchemy requires friction. The sculptor didn't just praise his muse, he challenged her. He told her when she was wasting her talent. He demanded more. And in that tension, something ignited. This aligns with the work of modern relationship expert Esther Perel, who argues that love thrives in the space between comfort and challenge. The men who become unforgettable aren't the ones who make a woman feel safe. They're the ones who make her feel like she's evolving. So, how do you apply this?
First, become a mirror of her potential. Most men reflect back what she already knows, her beauty, her charm, her surface qualities. The alchemist reflects what she could be. If she's creative but unfocused, don't just praise her, call her out. If she's brave but stuck in routine, push her to take risks. Second, make your presence a catalyst. Don't let yourself be her escape from reality. Be the reason she confronts it. Look at history's great lovers. Lord Byron didn't seduce women with poetry alone. He seduced them by making them want to be the kind of woman who inspired that poetry. Picasso didn't just paint his muses, he reinvented them. Even today, women report the strongest loyalty to men who disrupt their self-narrative in exhilarating ways. But Freud's final discovery went even deeper. He uncovered a point of no return, where attraction stops being psychological and becomes biological, where her attachment to you becomes etched into her nervous system. He called it the biological lock. And once you understand it, you'll realize why some women can never walk away, even when they want to. That's what we'll uncover next.
So, how do you actually use this knowledge without crossing into manipulation or games? Let's break it down. The first thing is to stop trying to be predictable. If every date, every text, every conversation feels safe, polite, and exactly the same, you become background noise. You don't leave an emotional imprint. Remember, the human brain thrives on contrast. It's the difference between the bright light and the dark shadow that creates a striking image. So in relationships, it's about mixing warmth with a little mystery. Show care, but don't always be available on demand. Share your thoughts, but keep a piece of yourself unspoken. Predictability kills attraction because it removes curiosity. The second key is planned contrast. I'm not saying you should create drama or be cruel. What I'm saying is that you should deliberately create variety in the experiences you share. Instead of 3 coffee dates in a row, maybe one is a casual walk, the next is a fun, adrenaline-filled activity, and the third is something deeply intimate, like cooking a meal together at home. Each shift creates a new memory spike. The highs and lows stick far more than a flat line of politeness. Third, leverage intensity, but responsibly. Studies show that people bond more deeply when they share intense emotional states, whether that's fear, excitement, or even awe. That's why couples who travel together or face challenges together often grow closer. The shared intensity acts like glue. So instead of only doing low-stakes, comfortable things, plan moments that feel charged. Go see a live performance, try something adventurous,
or dive into deep late-night conversations where vulnerability naturally appears. These moments cut through routine and become anchors in memory.
Now, here's the part that most people miss. Mystery is not manipulation. It's about respecting the natural rhythm of human psychology. Attraction isn't built by handing someone a perfect, wrapped-up package on day one. It's built by revealing layers over time, letting curiosity pull them deeper. That's why in storytelling, you never reveal the ending in the first scene. In relationships, it works the same way. The gradual discovery keeps engagement alive. Let's circle back to Freud for a moment. His cases may sound extreme: opera singers, poets, forbidden affairs. But at their core, they highlight a universal truth. People don't fall in love with perfect safety. They fall in love with stories, with emotions, with contrasts that stir the nervous system. When Freud noticed that women were more captivated by unstable or challenging partners, he wasn't glorifying bad behavior. He was pointing out how predictable, overly nice men often erase themselves from memory. It wasn't about cruelty. It was about depth, unpredictability, and emotional charge. Modern neuroscience backs this up. The dopamine system doesn't reward certainty, it rewards anticipation. The brain lights up more when something is just out of reach than when it's fully in hand. That's why a surprise text feels more thrilling than a scheduled one. That's why a compliment given after a moment of tension feels more powerful than one repeated daily. Anticipation is the secret sauce. So what's the real takeaway here? If you want to create lasting attraction, stop playing the game of being the safest, most available option. Instead, focus on being memorable. Let your presence stir emotions. Let there be contrast, intensity, and moments of awe. Be both a comfort and a spark. That's not manipulation. It's human connection elevated.
Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't this just playing with people's heads? Not if you approach it with honesty. The difference between manipulation and mastery is intention. Manipulation hides the truth to exploit. Mastery understands the truth to create authentic connection. When you use these principles not to trick, but to build deeper bonds, you're not a villain. You're simply someone who understands how the human mind works. And here's the last layer: scarcity. Freud touched on it, and modern research confirms it. People value what isn't endlessly available. When you live your own life fully, pursuing passions, building friendships, chasing goals, you become scarce in the best way. Your attention carries weight because it isn't handed out to everyone all the time. Scarcity amplifies value. It's not about pretending to be busy. It's about actually living a life so rich that when you choose to share it, that choice means something. So the next time you find yourself tempted to send that 10th polite text or plan yet another safe, predictable evening, remember, the brain forgets safe. It remembers the moments that made the heart race, the stomach flip, the world feel alive for just a second. That's what attraction really is, a series of unforgettable emotional imprints. Freud may have stumbled upon it by accident, but today, with everything we know about psychology and neuroscience, we can use it intentionally and ethically. Don't be the person who gets erased because you were too predictable. Be the person who leaves a story behind. Because at the end of the day, love isn't just about comfort. It's about awe, mystery, and the kind of intensity that lingers in memory long after the moment is gone. And when you understand that, you stop chasing attention and start creating connection. So the real question is, are you going to keep being forgettable? Or are you ready to become unforgettable?